So I'm talking a lot about wrestling, football, hockey, lacrosse, but also one of the biggest teams that trains with me in my high school is girls soccer. My assessment, so Mike is like kind of reading research. My best assessment comes when I go and watch a football game and I watch us get our ass kicked, or I watch offense not move the ball, or I watch defense get run over. I go to a girls soccer game and I watch girls literally getting checked and they go flying. It's pretty rare that I walk away saying, I need more speed and agility. And that is a massive buzzword, at least up in New Jersey. I don't know if it's infiltrated the South yet, but it basically brings me to my first point. I always say this: there is no such thing as weak and successful. I never find myself saying, we just killed that team, thank God we don't squat heavy. You know, we are killing them, thank God you've been skipping workouts. Luke, right? Luke, right?
Yes, sir.
Luke, thank God you haven't showed up in the offseason. That's why you're winning so much. Other things that I've taken notice of, because I started coaching in 02, I've watched kind of Mike mention this, I called it like people are demonizing strength. Like being strong is this big problem that we're facing. I haven't had that problem except one time. When I was at Lehigh, our heavyweight, who was not the starter, benched 405 for a triple in season. And I remember I was like, holy shit, what if I get him to bench heavier? He's not even our number one guy. He needed more time in wrestling. But who's benching 405 for a triple in season? So I haven't seen it. That was like the only time I said, this guy's too strong. Maybe not too strong, but really needs to take the energy and put it into wrestling. The other time it happened was a kid came to me late in high school, springtime of his senior year, football player, and at his high school had all the records of bigger, stronger, faster, bigger, fast, strong, whatever you call it. Squat, bench, clean. But he had no work capacity, and that's something I'm going to talk about. When he got to college, the college coach emailed me, and it was a D3 school. He said, hey, this kid said he trained with you. He's like, I can't believe it. He's always hurt. He can't make it through a practice. He's always sitting on the bench. And he said, he's strong and useless. I was like, what? He couldn't do our warm-ups. He could box squat 405. He could trap bar 495 for 5. But if you said to him, here's our warm-up. Coach Rivos talks about this. 10 squats. Can you just drop low? Struggled on squats. Our warm-up back then was squats, lunge, push-up, recline row, face pull, and abs while upright on the dip bar. I remember he couldn't do lunges. That was around 07. That was the first kid I trained that was struggling on movement, and I thought it was abnormal. Today it's normal. Today it's normal for our high school incoming freshmen. 70% of them cannot do one push-up. Same thing with lacrosse. And when I said this to my buddy, Craig Fitzgerald, he's at Boston College now, he's like, what? How do you get off the ground when you fall in lacrosse if you can't do a push-up? Now I'm going to take that further. Why I want to really dig into this. The amount of injuries I've seen went like this. Just steady increase. Common injuries, ACL tear, knee dislocations. That's like something I've been seeing the past few years at my high school. I was not seeing that for 15 plus years. Broken arms and shoulder dislocations from falling. Okay? The last video that Dr. Mike showed with the guy jumping off of the box, I was thinking to myself, we don't have too many young guys here, but I was like, oh damn, we did that on the playground. I jumped off of things and landed. So because all that stuff is gone, we have lost athleticism and durability. So I'm gonna go through a couple notes and then I'm gonna segue into some of the hands-on training. Any questions you have, just say it. So if you missed, that first thing I said is, there's no such thing as weak and successful. We do not have strong athletes up by me. from what I experienced down here, I came down to North Carolina. Coach Reeve invited me down. It was 2009, I think. There was a different culture down here. I was down at Wake Forest during their winter break. There was I guess you would hold a football strength camp. There was like 90 football players here. Do you remember that? And they were so attentive and into the training, and the culture of strength to me down here really inspired me. Up in New Jersey, what I experience a lot of is the kids are so busy doing so much stuff, yet not getting a lot in return. They're just coasting. They're just trying to survive. So they might lift with me, but they might say, I have to do X, Y, Z after this with my private strength coach. It's very much like when a college strength coach gets released, the next strength coach comes in and does squatting, jumping, sprinting, same stuff, different voice. And so what I have noticed, I'd say especially since like 2012, 2014 when travel teams took off, I don't have as successful athletes as I once did. I would look in a room and I would say, what's your name? Mike. Mike is a all-state wrestler. Mike Schrock is a state runner-up. What's your name? Mark. Mark is a two-time state champ, okay? Gavin is being looked at by colleges for football. James is being looked at by junior leagues in hockey. Now I look around, I'm like, we don't have any more killers because they're too busy to train. And if you can't strength train, I hate to say, twice a week is the norm now. And that's actually not a lot of training. Twice a week is really not enough volume, but that's where we're at. I think that's why we're getting weaker. When I look at my time in college, I coached at Lehigh and Rutgers. You always have somebody who really loves it, and there was always one or two that was like, didn't really love the lifting. The one or two that did not take the strength training seriously, the guys lost in the blood round of the national tournament, which means that's the round that determines if you're All-American or not. At the highest levels, that strength endurance, power endurance for combat athletes is crucial, okay? Gavin went to watch Duke wrestling, UNC? We have a kid from my high school that's at Duke. He went to the state tournament 4 years. That's very impressive. His senior year, he took 8th in the state by the skin of his teeth. All state. I told him, I said, you know why you don't win in the states? You don't lift. He's like, I can't, I gotta wrestle. I was like, but your plan, your formula hasn't worked. You're losing all the time to somebody who's stronger than you. And here's the thing is, usually the obstacle is the raw materials we need to get those athletes where they need to be. So culture in your environment is crucial. So in my school, there's only one period a day, one block a day of strength and conditioning. And North Carolina, South Carolina, Ohio, Michigan, I think Indiana have been ahead of the curve for a long time. It's mandatory. You're an athlete, you are strength training. In my school, what do you want to do, Mike? It's up to you. and all those options has built some high-skilled kids, but they're just not strong enough to win at the higher levels. The other thing I'm seeing in New Jersey, I don't know if it's happening in the Carolinas, is it's basically a race to the bottom, meaning there's the elite top. Like we're watching like teenagers now qualifying for the Olympics in wrestling. Okay, we're seeing when I watch football players, if they're like 6'4", they're just killing people. Everybody else is just kind of there. There's no middle ground. Why? Too busy with all the travel sports. No time in basic strength training, the basic stuff that Dr. Mike was talking about. And as basic as that is, when I went to Lehigh in 2014, I remember it was my first university, D1, I said, oh, these guys are D1, they're killers. I remember the first day I was going to start with sumo deadlifts. And I made the mistake of thinking they're all high level, so they're high level strength. And my buddy John Wellborn says, if you deadlift and you look like a dog shitting razor blades, like you're weak. So we did sumo deads and it was horrific. And I was like, I blew it. The first day I blew it. So I actually trained them for 2 or 3 weeks like our middle school kids, which was single arm and unilateral work, kettlebells, dumbbells, calisthenics. And they had results faster because they were elite athletes. It wasn't like a long-term process, but I had to teach them how to extend arms on pull-ups, how to squat all the way down. But I made the mistake of thinking advanced athletes are advanced lifters, which they are not. Other things of why strength gets demonized. Strength shouldn't exist in a vacuum. Meaning, you're strong, like that one kid I trained, he's strong and useless. Why? No athletic movements. I'm watching these adults moving. No athletic movements. Lack of multi-sport, and lack of combining it with power, with speed, and just movements that are outside of their normal, we call it, athletes are not athletic anymore. So I'm watching girls, they play basketball, and that's it. They can't walk onto a softball. They can't walk on and play softball. I only know how to dribble and shoot. They're so specialized that girls I'm training can't do a full body weight squat. What's the problem with that? It means you can't even sit on a toilet. And you got things wrapped all around your knees. Why is that a problem? If you can't just do this as a 14 or 15-year-old athlete and you can't bend, we have a lot of problems. When I'm training with regards to programming, we will do, depending on where I am. If I'm in the high school, because I'm seeing them twice a week, I'm doing full body workouts. A lot of supersets and a lot of contrast. So if I'm gonna do a heavier lift, like a squat, I'm going to couple it with a jump or a jump and a sprint. So let's say we got the squat racks going, then you're hitting the hurdle jumps and you're going into a sprint. Why? To me, sprinting is the most natural form of trying to develop power and speed, even if you're not a field athlete. So if you're a wrestler, I'm just trying to build powerful legs, okay? If you're an athlete, if you're a field athlete or a court athlete, I give them options. So we're squatting, and then when you're jumping, if you're new, you're jumping the hurdles and you're sprinting. If you're experienced, you might do lateral jumps and turning and sprinting. So contrast method is heavy, followed by some sort of speed or power, or speed power first into heavy. What I want to say with the organization is, every program is flawed. The whole thing is flawed. You could try to be as perfect as you want, but if your workout is perfect, the thing that is flawed is their lifestyle, their nutrition. Nutrition down here might be different than nutrition up in New Jersey, and it's different in every household. I think every athlete is kind of operating at a deficit now because of the phone. They might be in bed at 10:30, but they don't fall asleep till 12. So let's say 6 hours every day instead of 8 hours. That's 10 hours less a week. That's 40 hours less a month. And I also, when it comes to assessing, I mentioned assessing competition, watching girls soccer. I watch football. Our football team was taken over by a new football coach. So the strength training, he doesn't have me do it anymore. He runs the strength training. This year they went 4-8. They were on the verge of 3-9. Our linemen are cleaning 165. They weigh 275. So they're not even strong and useless. They're over fat. They're not even strong. Okay? We have skilled guys lifting more than bigs, which is that's a major problem. Now, that's weight room numbers. Then when I watch a game and I see that our guys can't block, you see that there's no transfer of training, okay? So what do I tell? Well, every big guy. I go, every big guy should be on the wrestling team. I had these conversations with Coach Reed in like 2002. Teach them how to hand fight, okay? What do they do instead? They go to a place that's specific for football and they're hitting pads. If you are just hitting pads versus wrestling, so I can hand fight with my eyes closed. I'm going to use wrestling to improve my football. And I think actually the wrestlers who are not mean should play football to get meaner and learn to lift heavy and compete in the weight room. So, and then our skill guys should be playing basketball, but they don't. And so we're losing that athletic quality, and then we have kids that are just beat up from doing the same movements. The other thing I'll say before we start doing some demos, the year that football took over strength training, I said, let me just do let me run a Google Doc and start tracking injuries. So I put down grade level, injury type, and then I had 3 columns. Off-season training, preseason, in-season. And it said yes, no, barely. Majority of injuries, ACL tears, shoulder labrum tear. We had plenty of rolled ankles. We had one kid fracture his T-spine. So let's just go with that kid. Senior, I don't think he weighed 140, maybe weighed 138. Never should have been on the field. Never in the weight room. So his off-season, preseason, in-season was no. Preseason was barely. Meaning, some of our kids would go to the athletic trainer and get heat on their back, this and that. So if you are a proponent of the strength training, but the culture in your school negates it and cancels it out, you're simply a salmon swimming upstream. Yes?
I hope I asked this question in the right order.
Sure.
Coming from a lacrosse background, I noticed that there was quite a bit of rotator cuff injuries and bicep tendonitis due to the repetitive overhead movement that lacrosse players tend to do. And at my school, we didn't do much strength training. And could this sort of demonization of strength training have led to the increase of injuries like this? Because my coach was only really focused on lacrosse and not strength training as a whole.
I think there's a culture in every sport. Right now we're seeing a big culture in baseball where they believe in being strong. And I'm going back to the first thing I said. There is no such thing as weak and successful. It hurts you to be weaker. And when I say get strong, strong is an umbrella term to me. I look at durability. I look at the physical durability, emotional, psychological preparation, and then I'm looking at speed, power, and health, keeping them healthy. So when I look at in-season training, I'm trying to offset all the stuff we do in season to keep you healthy, because the team that wins in the end has to be the healthiest. All right. So if everybody's beat up and injured, especially in the younger years, they don't have the psychological readiness to be at a high level of output. Now, is holding your arm up here good? It depends. What if I've been doing it since? If you're coming from New Jersey, like kids are playing lacrosse from like 3rd grade, 6th grade, all the way through. And then when it's winter time, they're renting space indoors. They're playing lacrosse. And the lacrosse players at my school, when the team signs up, it's 1 kid, 2 kids, and they are weak AF. It's pretty pathetic. And I think at the high school level, the most basic strength training, like that basic program that Dr. Mike put up, would be great. But the problem is, they're often too weak to even put a bar in their back. So before that starts, I do a ton of dumbbell work, and I stole it from Jim Wendler. I called him before I got to the high school. He said before he allowed kids to touch a bar, and he trains only football, he had them do a 100-pound squat for 50 consecutive reps, 5-0. I was like, 50? I can't do that. He's like, I know it's not perfect or even right. He's like, but I wanted them to earn it, and I wanted them to like battle. He's like, so they would do 20 here, they'd put 10 on this shoulder, 10 here, 10 on the back. He's like, they fought for it. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go like Jim Wendler light. So I said, if you weigh over 175, you gotta squat a 100-pound goblet for 10 before you could touch a bar. If you weigh under 175, squat the 75-pounder for 10. That's before you get to squat. That's before you get to trap bar deadlift. And what that does is it prepares the body, and mentally you're getting the message across of like, this is what you guys need to do to earn it. And I think at the high school level, sleds, carries, calisthenics, and very basic barbell work, but consistently done all year round. And so, do guys have bicep tendonitis? No, but I would say their shoulders and arms were feeling beat up because they're not durable enough. And where does durability come? I'm going to demonstrate carries and things like that. I mentioned the contrast method. To me, that helps integrate your athleticism. When I'm at my private facility, our training is more advanced. I've also got smaller groups. I've got 8 people to a group. Our busy ones are 15. At the high school, 50, 80 in a group. But what I like to do is turn the warm-up into something that segues into power training. So, warming up, squat, lunge, push-up, recline row, jogging, skipping, side shuffle, karaoke, hop on one foot, frog jumps. Then, give me 2 forward rolls. After every forward roll, do a vertical jump. Walk on your hands forward, sideways, to build that durability, okay? I also said this, yesterday I got here, I ate at Waffle House. There's no Waffle House in New Jersey, so I do believe that it negatively impacts the street cred we have up there. All right, we're gonna get into some training. I got some exercises that I wanna show you guys. And who's got questions about anything I spoke about with durability, training, programming? Gavin.
Yeah, what's your, what would be your rationale just looking at contrast method versus say, let's say if someone came to you and said, I'd like to train guys, if we're doing bench press, then we do maybe a row or something like opposing.
Upper body, for upper body days or upper body exercises, we will do a superset of an opposing. So if I'm pressing, I'm gonna do a pull or a row, but not always. And I'm gonna tell you why not always. And this is in Super Training, the book. Dr. Mel Siff, there's like a little excerpt. It's not even a page. He calls it imperfect training. It's about like maybe training in the wrong order. Maybe utilizing strongman training. These dumbbells have thick grip. To me, I am shocked that I don't see at the college level for football and wrestling more thick bars, thick dumbbells, and strongman training, at least in the off season. So if I'm not doing a push-pull, I might do a heavy bench, contrast, and go into 3 clapping push-ups. So what does that do? Heavy, slow twitch, clapping push-ups, forced to recruit more muscle fibers, be explosive under fatigue. Chris, right?
Yeah.
Chris is strength coach for hockey at Liberty. I'm gonna say this, when I also assess games, matches, when are we winning? In the beginning or at the end under fatigue? When do we win? Coach, what do you think? Football, what do we got? 4th quarter. So, I'm gonna say this, my mistake, as I got more into the research and the science and got smarter, I feel like my training got less tough. And I built less tougher, grittier athletes. And they get used to everything being so perfect that in the 4th quarter or the 3rd period of wrestling or whatever that sport is, we're so used to perfect, we don't know how to battle. Because physically I haven't done it. And if physically I haven't done it, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, I have not done it. And so, if you always try to make it perfect, it looks great on paper, it looks great to present, but then you may not be winning. And then there's, of course, factors we don't control. Genetics. Some athletes simply have more talent, they're just genetically faster, they're genetically more athletic. We're seeing that in college football and sports where they're just recruiting the best. They don't really have to develop the guy anymore. And how do you develop anybody who's leaving every year anyway? And if you're doing a full body workout, sometimes lower body's paired with upper body. Sometimes I'm doing a squat or deadlift followed by a speed dumbbell snatch. Is it perfect? No. But I'm trying to get all angles covered, trying to build strength for contact and combat sports. Strength endurance, which is like what Mike was showing with the percentages. Coach Grieve used to post his workouts on the Dragendorf forum 20 plus years ago. and it was like 50 sets of hang cleans, 1 to 2 reps every minute. Then they'd go and push a sled, carry. I was like, 50 sets, whoa. So I would test that stuff on myself. You younger coaches should be lifting and experimenting so you know how that feels on you. So higher sets, repeated bouts of power. And then again, can you do it with your equipment and the size of your group? But know that every workout and program is going to be flawed, but you're just trying to kind of blend the science with what you're seeing in the sport. That's why you must assess the sport by watching it. It'll change your idea. Right now, I think a lot of us are looking at science. There's coaches out there. I just saw somebody share it while Mike was talking. I was looking at some posts, and they said, the game should be the hardest part. I understand that from a science perspective. The game should be hard. But if I'm not prepared for hard, if the game is harder than practice, I'm not mentally ready. So I disagree with that. Don't ever do grind reps. Sometimes I'm grinding in sport. I am grinding when I'm a lineman. I have to grind against somebody. In wrestling, I'm grinding. Why do I now never grind? Okay? And I think you get too pretty and too fancy. All right? Okay. Any questions before we start doing some exercises? Anything?
Yeah, Coach.
Yes.
Do you have certain standards, whether it's calisthenics or a certain amount of reps? So you mentioned the goblet squat.
Yes.
Can you share some of those?
Sure. All right. Listen, these are never written in stone. In fact, I'd say nothing is written in stone. It changes all the time. Sometimes I'll train a group at 3, and then what I do with the group at 3:45 changes because of the emotional readiness of that team, the kind of culture that they have. I'll change things. But with the boys, I'll do this. You want to put a bar on your back? You want a trap bar deadlift? 75-pound dumbbell squat for 10. Oh, by the way, I'd say for 10. Then I realized some kids could do it for 1 set and got lucky. So I started saying it's 3 sets of 10. Because I need to see you be able to do it more than once. 1 set of 10 could do it. What's your name, Coach?
Ernest.
Ernest. I think we met last year. Were you at the in North Carolina?
Yeah,
yes.
Yes, sir.
I remember. So here would be an example. I see Ernest on the bar. If you're old enough to remember this, gyms never took the 45 off the bar. If you were benching, that's it. 45. I don't want kids benching 5s and 10s. I know that sounds crazy. I'm all right with the girls doing it, but I don't want a kid who's got a 45. Ernest is stronger than me. Then I come in Ernest's group, he's got to take the 45 off because I could only do a 10 and 5. It's just killing him. So Ernest sees me on the bench. He's the coach. Zach, can you bench those 40-pound dumbbells for 10? And I say, I think so. And then this is what I always say. You think or you know? Maybe, probably. I go, show me right now. They go to do 40 and they almost take out their eyeball. I'm like, bro, you haven't earned your way. You're out. So the truth is, they lie. So I tell boys, don't go to the bar unless there's a quarter on. I mean, I feel too nice saying a quarter. It should be a plate. I should go back to 1989 and it should be a plate. So I say, I want to see 40s for 10 on the benching. Girls, 25s for 10. It makes sense. The bar is 45 pounds. Gotta do it. Do my girls listen? I train girls a little differently. Every time I'm about to say something to a girl, I think of my daughter. So I speak to the girls differently than the boys. Sometimes I say to the boys, yo, what the F are you doing? You shouldn't even be there. Or I gotta say to a girl, you're watching them squat, but you haven't done your dumbbell squats. You're not getting better. Those are the things I wrestle with at the high school. At my private facility, I don't have to deal with that. We got a kind of a skeleton program, and then we use progressions and regressions. And we could really see how they move. And also, not just how they move, weight, but are you emotionally ready for a barbell lift? That to me is everything. Because when I'm under a bar and I struggle, if I'm not emotionally ready and don't have reps training with some dumbbells and being a little bit intense, so if I was benching or doing a lift, I just needed somebody to spot me. And I remember I was benching and I got stuck and I was like closing my eyes. And the big guy spotted me and said, "You went for it, get it." He was saying, I ain't here to save you. You want to do it, you do it. Okay, those are bodybuilding days. Next one. Not that I recommend the leg press. I was leg pressing. I was training with a guy that used to wrestle. He was 26, I think I was 15 or 16. And I was leg pressing there. He was sitting on the bench here. And I'm going, and I get stuck, and I squirm out. I go, "Help me." And he calmly goes, "Help yourself." I was like, thought that was like, should be on a t-shirt. It was the best thing ever. Those guys were like, "Dude, we are not saving you. You need to approach what you're doing and have some guts." And what I've noticed, I never noticed this until CrossFit became popular. I never saw anybody fail or give up under a squat. I thought you make the rep or you're friggin' dying under that bar. I would see CrossFit here, I'm out. And that's why we want those standards. Bodyweight standards. We are nowhere near what I want them to be. I think if you weigh under 200 pounds, you gotta do 10 pull-ups. I don't care what grip. Over 200, 5. And I think that's being nice. Jim Wendler said, everybody does 10, including linemen. 10 pull-ups. Why we got shoulder injuries? You could bench 275, you can't do 1 pull-up. What do I see at my school? Program says benching, this, that, pull-ups. Kid can't do pull-ups. He just doesn't do them. And the coach doesn't know. And to me, that's a problem. So, here's 3 things you gotta do. I see the sleds over there. Every athlete needs to do sleds. Every athlete needs to carry stuff. Dumbbells, kettlebells, heavy med balls, and calisthenics. So our warm-up might be calisthenics, light carries, band work. But guess what? Our finisher is, and same thing with like contrast training, jumping, clapping push-ups, weighted pull-ups. Our finisher might be, especially wrestlers, squat jump, lunge jump, push-up, pull-up, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. Warm-up might be push-up, pull-up, recline row, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then do it again, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get some volume in, okay? All right, I wanted to go over some different squat patterns. Who has questions before we go in there? I covered kind of some standards with dumbbells, body weight. And by the way, how do you get better at body weight? You need to do it pretty much every day. If athletes are only training under a coach, they're missing out on how to get strong. Calisthenics should be done every day. I think a normal high school kid should do 100 push-ups a day. That should be normal. I wake up, I get 50. At night I do 50. Or 34, 33, 33. Morning, afternoon, evening. Okay, chunking it down. I'm going to move into this squat rack right here, guys. Is this somebody's stuff? I'm going to move this. This is for this. Got it, my man? All right. Dr. Mike, am I right in this rack? Yep. Okay. Bench out. By the way, I love Sornex. I bought my first squat rack from Sornex in 2003. Okay. I'm going to leave the bar here. I'll be facing you guys. This lift, I'm not going to recommend it for everybody. Do you have fat bars anywhere, Mike, or no? Big bars? Just the dumbbells. What bar is this, by the way, with the long sleeves? But what's the kind of bar? What bar is this called? Ohio. Ohio bar with this long sleeve? Beautiful. All right. We're going to do a Zercher squat. Couple reasons why I want to show this. When we squat all the time, back squat, I'm loading my spine. Front squat, more of a trunk stability, anterior core. Trap bar deadlift, legs back, spinal pulling. When you do a Zercher squat, it's more of a brace of the trunk. Is it good for everybody? No. When I might program Zercher squat, I'll give our girls the option to goblet squat. But sometimes like I said earlier, you overthink, and then all of a sudden girls start doing zerchers. You're like, why did I think they can't do it? Or I've seen D1 baseball strength coaches do it, and then I'm thinking baseball shouldn't do it. It's their arms. And so this is also why, like at my gym, I hired a younger coach because I found myself getting too conservative on stuff, like too worried. And he said to me, he's like, man, we could jump high, we could sprint fast, but we're not really that strong. And I said, that's why you're here. Like, I need you pushing and getting kids to compete. Because I started getting to the place of, don't do the grind reps. Like, I look to those earlier days of me training guys out of my garage and the first underground location. We had kids that weighed 165 squatting 405 for doubles and triples. And they were very successful in their sport. I can't remember the last time I've seen a 405 squat. That's, to me, I'm talking even with kids that weigh 250, that's kind of sad and not getting deep enough. So, couple variations to this. At my gym, I have a thick bar and I have a zigzag bar. It was initially made for triceps, but what happened was we were training a football player who's also a swimmer, and I had a bar in here that I was benching, and he walked up to move it and just started squatting it, and I was like, I don't know why we haven't done that. We started squatting with that thick zigzag bar. He was a Johns Hopkins football player, also played lacrosse. So, I usually set this up around sternum height. I'm gonna get under it, lift, step back 1, 2, good posture, get low, and explode up. So it's more of a brace. Very good for combat athletes. Did you play football? What position? Were you a D-line or? Come on, baby, I can see it. All right, I need to be able to like push. I know how to like wrestle, but those zercher squats teach you how to brace, and it's a full body squat. So we'll go over a quick technique. Hands this way, don't twist them, or just like this. Make sure you're centered, chest tall, lift. I would normally be stepping back too, and posture up. Some of the linemen, O-linemen, when their lats are big, their elbows might flare and they might hit the leg. I'm okay with it. I'll make up a full range of motion when I'm doing Bulgarians. So elbows in, knees out, chest tall, and stand. Okay? So what's also good about this, when I program, what I like to do is a 3-week mini cycle for a couple reasons. When you're training high school athletes or combat athletes, I'm sorry, Dan. I feel like they're a little bit, they're like eccentric. They like some variety. When you do zerchers, I'll do like week 1, 6 reps, week 2, 4, week 3, 2. Same thing on a front squat, but if I back squat, I might do 8, second week 5, third week 2 or 3, depending on their experience level. But something that's a little tougher on the body, 6, 4, 2. And then a hockey player said to me, Coach, why can't I just keep back squatting and get better at it? I said, we're using squats to get you better at sport. I'm exposing you to different angles, getting you strong from different positions so you get better at hockey, not necessarily get better at squats. So number 1. Number 2, I think you just start doing the same motion, you beat up their body. And you gotta understand, athletes today are already more beat up. If you're older, quote unquote older, 40 and older, what we did in 4 years are what kids do in 1 year, volume-wise of sport. Baseball, I mean, they're playing hockey in August. Soccer, it don't end. Wrestling, all the time. So, zercher squat, I'll do 3 weeks of back squat. Front squat, zercher. I might take a week or 2 and go goblet. Or I might say a week or 2 and I'll call it any squat. Meaning, we have heavy med balls up to 150. Sandbags. I want to get away from a barbell sometimes. So, regular squat there. Next one, I'm going to drop it low on the safeties. This is a little bit too low, but that's all right. Anderson squat, starting the squat from the bottom. You could do it on Zercher, front or back squat. What is it doing? It's getting you strong from an awkward position. Now, think about being D-line, hockey, wrestling. I've even seen it in girls soccer. Girl falls down, slides, has to pop back up. You need to get physically and psychologically comfortable in some awkward positions so you're what's called strong all around. I came up with that term when an elementary school kid saw me at the playground. He's like, "You're the strongest man in the world. You're strong all around." We know I'm not the strongest man in the world, but when he said you're strong all around, 6 years old, I was like, that's what we need in sports. Even the weightlifters, if they're like missing reps, they got to start getting strong from awkward angles. I call it be prepared for the oh shit factor in sport. Because if I'm physically not ready, mentally I'm just going to be like, give up. I'm going to give that up. So we start real low. This is pretty damn low. Too low. Probably raise this. I'm going to lift the safeties up just a little bit. Are you okay with me doing these out, Mike? Yep. Okay. Thank you, bud. Go up right under the jam arms. Even if it's not perfect, I'm okay with that. Like, here we go. By the way, at my high school, my safeties don't work. It's a mess. Guess what? I'm using it to the benefit. I'm going to just face this way. So I get low. It might have to be in a different stance than my favorite stance. I'm okay with that. That happens in sports. Lift. I might adjust. Kind of like with Mike doing the eccentric, where you're strong, and then the eccentric in the weaker position. I might have to go eccentric here. Reset. Bang. I get them to stop here for a second or two. Okay? We sometimes do that with benching. Not too often, but we'll do it. When we bench, same thing. 3 weeks shoulder width. 3 weeks, a thumb outside the smooth. 3 weeks, Swiss bar. 3 weeks, floor press with chains. I'm pressing. I'm getting strong through pressing, but I'm not benching and benching and benching. Overhead press, strict, 3 weeks. Next 3 weeks, push press or push jerk. Next 3 weeks, single arm strict. Next 3 weeks, split jerk, single arm. Kettlebells. So I'll do a 3-week mini cycle, and then I'll just reload a new main lift and some different accessories. It all depends on equipment available and also the skill. If your kids are not consistent, what kind of variety do you think I'm doing? I'll give you an example. The track team at my school, they're not consistent. I'll have a kid hasn't showed up for 3 weeks. I'm not doing anything. They're doing like, they're gonna squat, jump, farmer walk, push up, pull up, push up, recline row. But if I've got a regular athlete, I will do that. So main lifts will vary, okay? Mike, no heavy med balls here, right? I saw lighter ones there.
There's 10, I think there's 100-pound,
Oh yes, all right. You know what? They're putting stuff away. Am I up on time, Coach?
About 10 minutes.
All right. So let's move over here. We'll go over there in a few minutes. Oh, right here, guys. Look, kettlebells. I found that when I got away from using the kettlebells, we lost some of that work capacity. Kettlebells I'll do a lot of sets of 5 to 10. I love them for carries. Okay? How many of you do carries with your athletes? Good, okay? And not just the same double arm. So, we got a 40 kilo, 32 kilo. I like to do offset carry. About 25 to 35% difference. If it's too close, it's not really offset. Deadlift them up. The heavier side's trying to pull me, get to the end, put down. Now I got the other side. Or 2 different positions. 2 different positions might be same weight, but different positions. So I'm gonna be rack walk suitcase. Love this. This one very hard. Overhead or, you know, one rack, one overhead. It's kind of hitting the body from angles. Diagonal, like it hits you from an angle, okay? I would say this though. If you don't have the kettlebells, we do it with dumbbells. Did you guys see the thick grips here? Beautiful. So these even look like, where's Dr. Mike? He's over there. These look like maybe a little, but these are tough. The thick handle is excellent. That being said, and they revolve. If you're training linemen, wrestlers, get some custom thick bars, okay? Work the grip, change the way that grip is worked. Squats, I forgot to say this. We don't always barbell squat. I mentioned the D-balls, the heavy sandballs. Kettlebell squats. You know why kids don't like them? They're friggin' hard, okay? So they also force you in a different position. What's the first rep? Double kettlebell, clean, knuckles together, okay? Chest tall, a lot of abs, a lot of trunk right here, okay? You could also change up position, split squats. So what are we doing? Get strong all around. When I go into that phase, I also keep in mind athletes love the barbell a little bit more. But I got to get a week or two exposure to this. Or add that into your warm-up, prepping them into the main lift. Make sense? Mike, are they going to be working here with the boxes or no? Can I walk down to do med ball work or no? Actually, looks like he's going to do something there. Okay. Med ball, yeah. Even a 70. Okay.
That's the flywheel right there. Flywheel?
So yeah, I like the baller one. The bills. Thanks, man. Still a little different, right?
Yeah. All right. You could obviously get the sandbags. You could buy the heavy D-balls. They're a little nicer, but these make you work. I'll never forget one of the first wrestlers we had that really transformed. He was picking up the sandbag and he was like leaning this way, leaning this way. It was a wrestling match to get it up. It's like, this thing's a pain in the ass. It's awkward. I go, that's why we do it. That kid with a group, they never made it out of the district. 2 years later, that kid Jimmy was state runner-up. That group of kids, all state. You know how we trained? That was out of my house. A little bit in the garage. Then in the backyard, like Rocky IV. Then I would take them to a playground. Sled, truck push, hill sprints, and body weight training on the playground. Monkey bars, pull-ups, plyo jumps was on the picnic table. And then you saw how Mike was doing the catching. We do a lot of that. We don't just jump. We might jump, and it'll say jump, stick the landing, step off the box, catch. I usually say hold for a 3 count. That builds a field athlete's change of direction. I could stick that landing. It makes me strong. If I'm a combat athlete, I have now isometric strength from the legs. So we would jump on picnic tables, push my truck, sprint hills, pulling sleds, not just forwards, backwards, sideways, but also bear crawl. We put the straps through the shoulders. So going back to what I said earlier, I got smarter, and I got away from that, and our kids succeeded less. Sandbags. If you got combative contact sport athletes, get them in. So we can hang power clean with a bar, we can power clean from floor, but then we've also got power clean with the bag. Catch, what do I gotta do to put it down? Eccentric squat. Pull to the other side, okay? Here, wrestle it, pop up. Here, eccentric squatting. So power on the way up, strength, eccentric strength, and just building tendon ligament strength by going down slow. Carrying. I'm gonna close out with this. I've also seen a major increase in injuries before games even begin. Kids getting hurt before a scrimmage begins. Lack of durability, only being strong on a squat, bench. Clean's kind of looks shitty, so we're not gonna say it, but they're just got the strength with the weights. They don't carry, they don't sprint, they don't walk on their hands. And so a lot of that stuff, you may have done it in elementary PE, it's gone. Sandbag carry, kettlebell hold. It's very hard, it's awkward, it's imperfect training, but prepares the athletes physically and mentally for the rigors of sport. And again, I think it's crazy that kids are injured 2 weeks into practice. That's all I got. Last thing, Coach?
Yeah, no. I want to say this. I grew up in an era where we did a lot of farm work.
Yep.
So you're baling hay, you're doing a lot of things. So we got strong doing it that way. We were less injured by doing that. By doing a lot. What you're incorporating basically is farm type work that we would do. You know, so I applaud what you
For we called it. Coach Reeve told me I didn't realize how busy a D1 strength coach was. So 20-some years ago, I was like, damn. I was on the phone with Coach Reeve every week. He didn't even have time. I don't know how he did it. Calling him, but he spoke about growing up on a farm, the Granby camp, and we have gotten so perfect with training, but we're just seeing way too many injuries. I also think part of that is the great training has built the elite even more elite. They take to it, so their speed on the field is more dangerous. And so again, who are we really trying to protect? In high school, you gotta remember 6 or 7% playing college. That's not a lot. So on object training, strong all around, more sleds, carries, calisthenics is a daily thing for me. Okay, I was also, I could send you an email, I could send it to Coach Reeve. Like I have an older training manual with a lot of photos and stuff. Maybe that'll give you a visual, but I'll share that with Coach Reeve and get it to you guys.
Hey, let me ask you.
Yes, sir.
Standing ass.
Yeah.
Like
pull. Okay. So you could do direct trunk. I hate saying core, but a lot of athletes understand that. We do a lot of hanging abs because I like to kind of double, opening up the shoulder a little bit, get some space. What do you call it? Distraction of the shoulder. So a lot of hanging abs. And then, of course, your trunk is working there. My favorites are really one-sided carries because when you're here, you're getting pulled, okay? Offset stuff. I don't do crunches. I do more stability. Side plank, Zercher squats, picking things up. We do hanging abs, and I sneak them in. By the end of the workout, they've usually done 4 sets along with some sort of band pull apart, band face pull. I will do rotations fast. I'll do pull off slow. Kind of the same thing. I want to train the trunk strong all around, not just one way. And I say it all the time. My program is flawed every day. It's flawed and every day, but isn't competition imperfect? Isn't sports imperfect? And that's why if you're doing your best, right? Like, I'm okay with that. I know I'll always have things missing. That's why it's also responsibility on the athlete to do some of those things that you can't get to.
You said fat ball.
Yeah, it's better. You're going to hear less people complain. I tell them, listen, the world's not going to end. You'll be all right. I had a girl freshman year, did a 275 Zercher Anderson squat. I forgot. One year I had no weight room. They did the floor, the whole thing. We were training outside. I had to put stuff in storage. So if you wanted to squat, you had to clean it to front squat, or guys would deadlift it to Zercher. If you wanted to bench, it was floor press, but somebody had to sumo deadlift. We got we got the best workouts. We were the toughest. We had probably one of our best football seasons in a while, and then we get in the weight room, I'm like, damn, now we're soft. We're like, we got soft. We got comfortable. You know, it's like Mickey said it to Rocky. The worst thing that happens to a fighter is you get civilized. Yeah, so I like those stick bars. Good? Thank you guys. Thanks, Coach. You're the best.